Welcome back to the Running Wine Mom podcast. I'm your host, Samantha Cieslinski, aka the Running Wine Mom. Today, we're diving into a topic that resonates with so many of us: mental health, ADHD, and embracing our authentic selves. Joining me today is Kyrus Keenan Westcott, better known as Kai, the voice behind The Vibe with Kai. Kai is a mental health advocate, content creator, and digital marketer who's built a thriving community of over 1.4 million followers by sharing his journey with ADHD, anxiety, depression, and more. Through humor, honesty, and practical insights, Kai empowers adults with ADHD and introverts to turn their challenges into strengths. In this episode, Kai will take us through his personal journey, share strategies from his guidebook, Navigating Daily Life with ADHD, and talk about how he's breaking down stigma and inspiring others to thrive. So without further ado, let's welcome Kai. Welcome.
That was such a wonderful intro, and I feel like I have so much to live up to now. That was exquisite. That was epic, if I may.
I always say the intro is my favorite thing to do for any of my guests because, like, you guys are all such amazing people, and sometimes we don't realize when we write it on paper all the cool things that we
It's so
are.
weird to hear it. It's so weird. It's just because I don't ever think of myself in it like that way. I'm just like a normal person, and so whenever there's like a hype up period, I'm just like, I guess that's me. I guess that's me.
It is. No imposter syndrome here. And as we were just saying, I found out about you through one of our favorite coffee shops, which is
hmm
Evermore, right in Burlington City. So give a
Great
shout out to
place. Shout
them.
out. Yes,
Their
yes.
stuff is just everything is so wonderful there, from their food
It
to their
is.
coffee. So
Shout out to Evermore, my favorite. I stop there every morning, so yeah, shout out to y'all.
it is the best. All right. Well, before we get into it, to start each episode, we have our wine, and win of the week segment. This is where we share our favorite bottle of wine, vent about something that's been bothering us, and celebrate our recent victories. So grab a glass, take a deep breath, and let's get started. So Kai, what is your WINE of the week?
It's funny because right before this, which I was just saying, I was like, I totally forgot to get wine on the way home. I am such a basic Betty when it comes to wine, and I'm very easy to please. So any kind of white Zinfandel,
Okay.
it's oh man, it's so good. But here's the problem: wine makes me tired now.
Mm.
It just makes me so tired. So I have to be strategic when I decide to drink wine because I know that after I finish a glass, knocked out. I'm done.
You're
That's
going to
it.
bed.
Oh yeah, it's done. It's done for.
Oh, I love that. Good, refreshing glass of white is always good.
Yes, yeah.
I'm in my red season right now, but
Okay.
in the
I've grown
summer,
an appreciation for red, for sure.
yeah. Well, that's awesome. So what is your
Yeah.
WHINE of the week?
Good question. I think probably the traffic that I had to hit today because I was having such a good morning and I was this is so relevant for my day today. I got up on time. I was ready to go. I had about a 30-minute drive to where I was going. And I'm like, I got plenty of time. I left with 45 minutes. I'm like, oh, I got an extra 15 minutes. It took me an hour and a half to get there today. And I was like, and I was complaining, but then I grounded myself and I said, Kai, you have a car to get you from point A to point B and back. You have a lot to be thankful for. So you had some extra traffic, but that's okay. You got there safely.
Yeah, traffic is such a trigger for me. That's the way I felt
Yeah.
on the way home. There was a
Yeah.
bridge opening at the Burlington Bristol Bridge, so I had to
Oh my
go
gosh.
up the other way home, which is normally fine. But then once I got to 29 on the Jersey side, it hit all
Yes.
this other traffic, and
Yeah.
every way I went was wrong. But I ended up
Yeah.
getting home. And similar to you, I was thinking something's guiding me this other
hmm
way. It was pushing me
There's a
back from,
reason.
yeah, I
Yes.
don't know what it was,
Yes.
but I'm glad we both made it.
That's how we all justify it. It's like there's a
Yeah.
reason I'm not supposed to be at this location yet. There's a
Yes,
reason.
exactly. So what is your win of the week?
My win of the week. So last week at my job, we have a big conference that we host and put up, and it was very much a success. And today we went through the things that worked very well, and just shout out to my team in general and my entire staff and my job. They kicked butt, and we just got to sit back and just kind of be like, hey guys, good job. And
Yeah,
so that was a really, really good feeling to kind of review all of that today.
that's wonderful. Congrats to you
Yeah.
and your
Thank
team.
you. Thanks.
Yeah, so I always like to ask my guests, what is one significant challenge that you've successfully navigated shaping your journey to where you are today?
Honestly, probably learning, like after being diagnosed with severe depression, generalized anxiety disorder, and ADHD, learning how to manage that has probably been the biggest turning point of my life because I didn't realize how much of a hand it had in everything that I do in my life. And to be able to live a better, healthier, more fulfilling life because not only did I get diagnosed, but I started to learn how to manage it in a healthy way. It changed my life and it was the best thing to ever happen to me. So I'm very, very lucky for that.
That's amazing. And we'll talk a little bit more about that very
Hmm.
soon. But how old were you
Yeah.
when you received all those diagnoses
I
or
was a late
diagnoses?
diagnosis. I was a late diagnosis. So I'm 37 now. I was diagnosed 3 years ago. So I was like 34 going on 35. And I just did not think that I had any of these things. And then I started to do research and I was like, yeah, I definitely have all of these things.
Yeah, I only asked that because I feel as though it's been really common in a lot of people that I meet in the last few
Hmm.
years that they get diagnosed with adult ADHD.
Hmm.
And I think it's really such a relief for so many of them to just be like, okay,
Yes.
there's an answer to all of these things that have been kind of, you've been unsure with different,
Yes.
things. And so I'm very glad. That's awesome. I'm sure it was hard to
Yeah.
navigate, but I'm glad
At
that,
first, yeah, for
yeah.
sure. For sure. And it still is at times. It's still a challenge, but I've gotten better at learning how to navigate those waters, which is good.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so the running wine mom, we talk a little fitness. What's your favorite way to stay
Yeah.
active?
I love just going for a walk. Just going for a walk sometimes, like especially if I'm feeling stressed out or if I'm feeling anxious or anything like that. Sometimes I literally will just put down the electronics. I'll put down my phone and I'll just go for a walk. If I'm at work, I'll walk around my building. If I'm here, like I live in Burlington City, so sometimes I'll just go walk along the water.
Yeah, it's such
Because
a
the river is
so
right there.
beautiful
Yeah,
there.
it's so gorgeous. So I'll stop at Evermore, I'll get a cup of coffee, and then I'll, just go for a walk. And like honestly, it may seem like a very simple thing to do, but it's very good for me, not just from a physical standpoint, but from a mental standpoint as well. Because I'll go to the gym, I'll do my normal workout there, but like the more fulfilling thing for me is when I'm able to just take in the scenery and take in the world and take in the nature around me.
Yeah. And as I said, I've worked at the Burlington City High School for 14 years
Hmm.
and I grew up in the area. But
Yeah.
it was right around like COVID time that I started going down to the river during my like
Hmm.
lunch breaks. And I'm like,
Yeah.
nobody from my school that like no other teachers do this and it's super close and you
Yeah.
can just take a 10-minute walk and it's
Mhm.
beautiful.
Mhm.
The history
Yes.
in Burlington
So much
City is
history.
wild. Like it's
It
so much and you can just
Yeah.
feel it. Like and I just feel as though I wish more people, recognize that right where they're working. And I think it's just I think
Mhm.
about that a lot with where a lot of people work. You
Oh,
might
yeah.
just think like you work in these four walls, but like when you go out and explore the area, there might be somewhere
There's
that can bring you
so much
calmness.
history. Yes, there's so much history, especially the area where I live, where like Evermore is and all that,
Yeah.
because like this all used to be like industrial grounds, like there
Hmm.
were warehouses here and factories and all of that, and like the things that were made here and the people that lived here and worked here, made a living here, and made the city what it is, and the role that it played in regards to other cities around the area, even across the river in Bristol.
Hmm.
There's so much history, and I love looking into it, especially the Burlington Island. Like that
Oh
history in and
yeah.
of itself is just
Yeah,
so
so
exciting. I
much
love
of
it.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
for my master's, I had to do like a research of where you work
Uh-huh.
and like I said, I grew up in Delran, which isn't very far,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, wait, George Washington, like was that a
Yeah.
pub in Burlington
Yeah.
City? That's where he like,
Yeah.
all these people were. And then on High Street, there's the Underground Railroad part.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever seen that there.
Yeah, because there's a mural there, right? Is there
Yeah,
a
the
mural
mural.
there? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That
Yep.
was
Mm-hmm.
apparently, a part of it. So there's just so much history with
Yeah,
that.
there's a lot of history, and I'm that nerd, especially because of my ADHD. I'll get hyper focused on new areas that I've never been or areas in which I live, and I'll just spend like hours just deep diving into the history and like, okay, what happened in this spot over here? And what happened with this building? When was this made? And all that stuff. So like, thank you, ADHD. Because of
Yeah.
you, I am now educated on things that may come up in trivia night one day. Who knows?
Yeah, looking at the positives. So we kind of just talked about it, but I always like to ask about, how your fitness routine really does contribute to your
Yeah.
understanding of the relationship of mental health and physical health.
Yeah, you have to do it. You got to take care of your body, because when your body physically starts to shut down, or if it's not in the shape that it's supposed to be, then that affects your mental health as well, and vice versa.
Hmm.
And when I say take care of your body, I'm not just saying, hey, go out there and get a six pack of abs. Like that's not that's not what
Yeah.
I mean at all. It's about eating healthy, eating. You can eat anything that you want as long as you are monitoring what's best for your body. If something feels wrong, then maybe you should change it, or maybe you should get it looked at, whatever it may be. You
Hmm.
got to take care of your body. Stay active. Even if it's just like every time you're sitting in your chair, you just stand up and just do like a couple like down, up, down, like just for like 5 minutes. Little things like that play a big, big role, even just to get your blood circulating. Like that in and of itself is something that I take great pride in, because like you don't have to go to the gym to do this. You don't have to, lift all these weights and go for a mile run. And you don't, like, if you want to do that, you can. I love to run. I'll do that. I love to lift, but it's not a requirement. Like there's so much more to it. So you got to take
Yeah.
care of your physical body if you want to take care of your mental health.
That's awesome. All right. Well, let's get to you and your journey. Like
Yeah.
I said, I saw Evermore reposted one of your you were there, and I was like, I always
Yeah.
like check, oh, who's there? Do I know them or whatever? And I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is awesome. Like, I love everything he stands for. I got to email him to see if he wants to be on the podcast.
Yeah.
And so thank you
Yeah.
for, that. But
Absolutely.
can you kind of walk us through the moment you decided to start the Vibe with Kai and how it's really evolved since then?
Oh, gosh, yeah. How much time do we have? No, I'm kidding. I mean, it is an extensive story, but I'll keep it brief, because I would just want to hit like the really important parts here. So it wasn't always the vibe with Kai, and it really honestly all started back in 2018, when three things happened to me, all in the matter of 4 weeks. Honestly, I ruptured my Achilles, which is one of the worst things that you can
So
do to
yeah.
your foot. So that happened. The person I was dating at the time, we had broken up, and I swore she was the one. I knew, I'm like, this is it. That fizzled out. And the third thing is, one of my closest friends, Ashton, passed away suddenly. So
Mm.
these three major events, like life-changing events, happened to me in less than a month. And it sent me down this horrific spiral, mentally and physically. I was stuck in my apartment at the time. I was living in Belmar, New Jersey, and I was in this apartment, third floor, no elevator. I couldn't, like, because of my ruptured Achilles, I couldn't get up and down the stairs. I injured my right Achilles, so I couldn't drive. I was stuck. I
Yeah.
was just stuck. Um, I remember the moment, and not to get too dark by any means, but I remember the moment I was sitting in my kitchen, and where the way my kitchen was set up, I had my kitchen, and right across from my kitchen, like there was a little, there was a hallway right across. There was a like a little closet, and that's where I kept all like the chemical, like like the cleaners and stuff like that. And I remember looking at it and thinking to myself, if I were to just take one of these, would I go without pain? And that was a very dark place for me to go. And I knew as soon as I was like legitimately thinking about this, and I knew in that moment, I'm like, oh no, no, no. This is not
Hmm.
this is
Yeah.
not this is
This
not
is
a good
not.
mental place to be. The fact that I'm sitting here trying to figure out which one would make it hurt less. Which one can I
Ugh.
do, and then can go to sleep and just not wake up, right? That's not a good place to be. And
Mm-mm.
so it scared the living mess out of me. And it was at that point that I knew I had to make a change. And so I started focusing on my mental health and my physical health, because I was in like physical therapy trying to get better. And I wanted to document my process. So I started a blog, and I would just, blog about my physical health and blog about my mental health. And it was called Good Vibes with Kai at the time. And then it was going in 2018, 2019, like it was like fine. It was no big deal. Then 2020 came along, and I don't
Hmm.
know if you heard or not, but the world caught on fire.
Yeah, a little bit.
And yeah, just a little bit. And so I was stuck in my new home. I had since moved to Haddon Heights,
Hmm.
and I was one of those TikTokers that you know blew up during the COVID time. I'm one of those 2020 TikTokers.
Wow.
And so it started out on TikTok. I'm more of an Instagrammer and Facebooker now, but it started out on TikTok, and I had grown a following, and I got like a groove for what I wanted to talk about and the messages I wanted to get across. I started to meet people from around the world, and I realized that there's so many people out there that have similar stories, and there's a lot of people out there that think that they're alone on their mental health journey. And so I'm like, I'm going to dedicate my platform to making sure that nobody feels alone. Everybody feels heard and validated, and whether it's me talking about introversion, ADHD, cheese,
Yeah, I was
you
gonna
know,
say cheese.
like yeah, like it
You
could
love
be
cheese.
anything. I do. And shout out to the dairy farmers of Wisconsin for sending me a whole box of cheese yesterday. I
My
appreciate that.
gosh, that's so
Yeah,
cool.
but yeah, I finally like I felt like I found my voice, and I knew what I wanted to do to help people, and that morphed into the vibe with Kai, and then it slowly became what it is today. And honestly, I'm the luckiest guy. I don't take it for granted. I love my audience. I'm nothing without them.
Hmm.
And I'm really happy that I have a platform that I can use to help change at least one person's life, because that's all that matters to me.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what a great thing you're doing.
Hmm.
I just feel like mental health is just something that so many people are scared to share about. So having someone like
Yeah.
you where, they can sit in their own home behind a screen and
Yeah.
they don't have to go talk to anyone specifically. They just see you and everything
Yeah.
that you're doing and think, okay, there's one other person, like you just said, out there that is
Yeah.
like me. So
Yeah.
that's
And on
amazing.
top of that, there was the other thing that I noticed is that there weren't really any Black content creators talking about mental health. There were definitely not a lot of Black men talking about
Hmm.
mental health on social. So I was like, I have a chance here. I have an opportunity to open up the door to these kind of conversations within our communities. And like, as I think of myself, because like all these things that I was diagnosed with, we talked about late diagnosis, but like the signs were there my whole life.
Hmm.
But like nobody knew. I didn't know, and I wasn't educated. I was very ignorant when it came to this. And so I'm thinking, okay, if I can use my platform, if I can help at least one person that may have been in the same position as me, as a man, like
Hmm.
if there's a Black boy that comes across my content's for everybody, but for me, like if there's a Black boy out there that's listening that plays, basketball and
Yeah.
feels alone like I did, if he
Yeah.
sees, my videos, maybe it'll help open some eyes, and it'll help him, find some footing early in life.
And that's something that I was thinking about today, coming up to our interview, being at the high school, and
Hmm.
I've talked to so many of my male students. So we're a very diverse school. A majority of our Black male students, when
Hmm.
talking about mental health, it is very taboo in the community of, suck it up, like, this isn't something that we deal with, or like, it's almost like just in the culture a lot of times, that from what these kids have told me, just like
Yeah,
that's
it's
not
true.
real. And I've had some real deep conversations with these boys and girls too, more girls than boys, but I just was thinking, how lucky are so many of these kids who are now in this generation to be able to find someone like you
Yes.
who can help them, and they see someone like them. So that's also amazing.
Yeah, and that like I'll always give a shout out to these platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, because the world is now smaller, and
Hmm.
so like we're able to connect and share stories and easier than we ever had been able to do it. Back in my day,
I know.
like
Well, no, we're the
like
same age, so I understand. I'm like, yes,
yeah,
it is. Yes.
we had like MySpace and stuff,
Yeah.
but like at the time it wasn't about getting followers. It was about
No,
connecting with the
it
people
was
you
about
already
ranking
knew.
your friends
Yeah,
and
yeah. Like legit, and I've lost
yeah.
friendships because I did not put them in my top 8. I had lost friendships, but like that's what it was for us. And then it turned into social media, where you tried to get
Hmm.
as many people to know your stuff, and now it's morphing into a thing that I call interest media, where it's like it doesn't matter who you are; it's about what you talk about and whether people can connect with you or not. And
Yeah.
so like it's a shift, but it makes the world smaller in a positive way.
Yeah. So what do you think? is maybe the most significant lesson that you've learned about yourself since starting the mental health advocacy journey?
I was very lucky that in 2020, there was also like the musical Hamilton had come out
Mm,
already,
yes.
but the pro shot of it came out on Disney Plus. And I remember listening to it, and there's this one song that I listened to that has a lyric that is going to answer your question. In the musical Hamilton, there is a song called "Wait for It" that Aaron
Hmm.
Burr sings, and there's a line that says, he says, "I am the one thing in life I can control." And I remember the first time I ever heard that line, and I was like, "That's it. It's true. It's true. I am the one thing in life I can control." And it made me realize, and this is something I've come to realize over the course of my social media life and adult life. If you focus on all the things that you can't control, you're never going to find the happiness that you're looking for,
Hmm.
because you're looking for this external thing to happen for you that you think you can control, and you can't. But what you can control is your internal validation. You can control your feelings, your actions, how you react to things. That's what's most important. Focus on the things that you can control and then go
Right.
from there. That's probably the biggest lesson that I've learned.
Yeah, it's so true. And I think so many people, and that's where like kind of the negative of social media is, where people are,
Hmm.
thinking they're defined by likes and views and
Yes, that's
filters
big.
essentially.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
what, I talk to my high schoolers
Hmm.
just about like, it's about you. It's not about everybody else. Like, think about just what makes you happy.
It's all curated, like even like me, like even myself, the content that I put out, it's all genuinely me. Like I'm not
Mhm.
faking anything. Like it's all genuinely me. But it's still curated. I only put
Right.
out there the things that I want people to see, that I feel
Hmm.
comfortable telling people. I don't have the cameras rolling when I'm crying, when I'm upset, or when I'm having a really bad depressive episode. My cameras are not rolling during that time period. So you're not going to see that.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
and like there's people out there that have like these legit, I'm friends with a lot of them. A lot of these content creators that have these fake online personas, and then you meet them in real life and you're like, "Wait, what happened to
Yeah.
that? Wait, where's that
Yeah.
guy
I know.
at?"
You're like,
Wait,
what is
what?
happening?
So like, and I'm friends with a lot of them, so I get to see both sides of it. So I always tell people, take it with a grain of salt. It's not about the numbers. It's not about the amount of people that follow you and like you. Don't
Hmm.
look for that external validation. You're never going to be satisfied,
Yeah.
ever, ever. I have a
Yeah.
million followers on TikTok. Whoop-de-doo. Right? What does that mean for me? Nothing, because if I'm going to rely on 1 million people to validate who I am as a person, I'm never going to be satisfied. I'll be like, well, why am I not at 2 million? Why am I not at 3 billion? Why am I
Hmm.
not 4? Validate
Yeah.
yourself.
That's amazing. I love that. So to continue on with the mental health,
Yeah.
advocacy, what strategies do you think that you make to kind of make these conversations approachable and relatable for everyone, and all around the
Yeah.
world?
Yeah, I try to add a little levity to the
Hmm.
conversation, because it's a very dark subject matter, really. Because I mean, mental health has taken people's lives, you know. So I do try to add a little levity to it. I never punch down. I never add humor to something that I'm not, diagnosed with myself, right? So like, like for example, I'm not diagnosed bipolar, so
Hmm.
you're not going to see me making any content about being bipolar,
Hmm.
right? So, and on top of that, it's all self-deprecating. So it's never making fun of other people or anything like that. It's all about my experience. And if you just happen to get it, you're like, oh yeah, I know what that's like,
Hmm.
then cool. But if not, you're like, oh, that's not me. And then you keep scrolling.
Yeah.
Right. So like I try to add a little levity to it, so it makes it a little bit easier to digest, and it also hopefully starts a conversation, makes it easier to start a conversation about ADHD, about OCD, about depression, anxiety. It makes it a little bit easier, because there's a lot of people out there that may not think that their struggles are because of these things. But then once they start seeing, videos from myself or other content creators, and they're like, wait a second, yeah, I deal with that and that and
Hmm.
that. Wait, do am I depressed?
Yeah.
And then they go talk to a mental health professional, and it's like they get the help. So like I'm hopeful that like the strategy that I personally take, add a little levity to it, with a seriousness to it, with a point of helping people, and
Hmm.
then go from there.
Yeah. So how do you handle the emotional weight of being a mental health advocate while managing your own well-being? And then,
Hmm.
again, the content creation for it, it has to
Yeah.
be stressful a little bit.
Content creation is not for everybody.
Hmm.
You have to have a thick skin. I was just telling my girlfriends today, with if you're a content creator, you have to be ready for anything. You have to understand that not everybody's going to like you. You have to understand that there's a lot of people that are now able to hide behind a keyboard and they're going to talk and say whatever they want to say, whether it's good or bad. You have to have a thick skin. I didn't know that at first. So at first, like when I first started getting, people to follow me, like people, I was like, I'm like reading every comment, trying to
Yeah.
digest, okay, what did they mean? Should I respond to all stuff? I just have a lot of the stuff I just have to like push to the side.
Hmm.
I just have to like not think about it. And I just try to focus on the positive aspect of it. I like there's so many great people that are part of my, social media family, my audience, that I'm just thankful for them. I love hearing their stories. So like that's what props me up. I tell my audience all the time, like it's easy for me to talk openly about my mental health because all of you provide a safe space for me to do so.
Right.
Like I feel safe with you. So I feel capable and safe to speak up about this. So I focus on that, and that helps me stay in the right mental state. Not that I don't have my bad days. There's some days I'm like, oh my God, why am I doing this to myself?
Yeah.
But in the long run, it's all good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like I have far less followers than you do, but I've had videos go like very viral. And I had one recently from when we went to Disney, and it was of my son. He was scared of the characters, but it was really funny. Like he
Sure.
had just had his head down at like one of the breakfasts, and I was like, oh,
Yeah.
spending $250 on a Disney brunch. And it was again
Yeah.
very content creation because we had a
Yeah.
great brunch and people were like attack like this is why you don't waste money on Disney. This is like your child is a
Yes.
brat and I'm
Yes.
like my kids had the best time and we had
Mm-hmm.
the best time and that
Yes.
breakfast was the best time and like
Yes.
this is 6 seconds of the breakfast and you're just
Yeah.
assuming that the I don't it's just very
Yeah,
interesting to
there's
me.
that's why everything I do is curated, and
Yeah.
and you just have to be ready for anything because it's
Yeah.
really easy for people to take things the wrong way.
Oh yeah.
Like I can give you an example from today. I posted a video today, and it's a video of me saying, if I'm walking down the street and I see a pet like a dog, I'm gonna greet the dog first, and if the human starts talking to me, I'll be like, "Why are you talking to me? Leave me alone," or whatever, right? Like in a joking way. But then there were people responding, being like, "No, you need to talk to the pet owner first because it may not be a safe dog." And I'm
Yeah.
like, I know, it's just I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
Like
I'm not just
it's
gonna
just
go
a joke.
pet a dog without,
Right, right. So people, you have to just be ready for that. And it's that's why I always say content creation is not for everybody
no.
because you gotta have a thick skin.
Yeah,
You
it's so true.
gotta.
So let's talk about ADHD and
Hmm.
introversion. Many adults with ADHD, they really struggle with daily routines. Can you
Hmm.
share maybe one of your favorite strategies from your guidebook that has kind of helped
Yeah.
you?
Yeah. So there's a lot of things that from an ADHD perspective, and I will preface this by saying that ADHD is a spectrum. So like there's no like one ADHD,
Yeah.
like so the way that ADHD affects me may not be the same way that affects somebody else and vice versa. So that's why like whenever I talk about it, I always talk about it from the things that I've experienced. And I will also preface this by saying at the end of the day, go talk to a mental health professional. I am not one, nor do I pretend to be one.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll joke. I'll be like, I'm not a mental health professional, but I did see the entire series of House and
Yeah.
ER. So
Yeah.
like, that's the extent of it there. But from an ADHD perspective, one of my biggest struggles is a thing called time blindness, right? Where and I'm not over exaggerating here. I Time does not exist for me if I get hyper focused on something. So, I may be talking to you and then I look down at my phone, send a text, and then look back. To me, 3 seconds went by just now. But in actuality, 2 hours went by.
Yeah.
Like legit, it's one of those things where it's really easy. So one of the things that I do is I just have a timer going at all times. I have a timer that dings legit every 10 minutes so that it forces me to look at the clock. It forces me to look at the time. I time every task that I do because I have to. Otherwise, I'm going to just lose track of time. Um, and it's tough. It's really, really hard, and it takes discipline. And you gotta. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna work immediately. That's probably the biggest thing for me. That became the thing that helped me the most because I became more productive. And like that helped a bunch. And from that standpoint, you don't have to get everything done at once. You can break it for people with ADHD, it's usually better to just break things into chunks, right? So for example, let's just say, I wanted to clean my house. I clean my house every weekend, right? I don't do the whole house in one sitting, right? In the morning, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do the bathroom and the kitchen. And then at night, I'm like, on Saturday, and I'll be like, I'm going to do the living room. And then the next day I said, I'm going to do, the washroom, whatever it may be, right? I split it up into chunks. That way, I'm not spending so much time. It's easier for people with ADHD to accomplish things in small tasks than to just do one big task sometimes. That's something I talk about in the guidebook.
Yeah, the timer is, it's very interesting because when I do talk to people with ADHD and they talk about the time blindness, and I am obsessed with time. Like, I am literally like, I think every second of my day is planned out. But I use timers as well, just for like if I'm in a social situation that I am not constantly looking at my watch to be like, okay, how much time do I have left? When do I have to leave? So I totally understand how that can be helpful for if you,
I wish I had time blindness. I wish I had time blindness when I'm on the treadmill. I know,
right?
Tell you that because I'm running and I'm just like staring. I'm like, I said I would run for 20 minutes. I'm like, this is the slowest 20 minutes ever.
It's
like
been
an hour.
1 minute.
I'm like, why can't my time blindness kick in now? Kick in right now.
Oh my gosh. And then you also talk a lot about being a proud introvert. Recently I forget if I was looking at your website or you reposted something about it, about like how going out to dinner by yourself is such a, an empowering thing. How do you find, so being a content creator, you would never think someone like you is an introvert.
I know.
Like, how do you find balance between putting yourself out there and really protecting that energy that you need?
Yeah, a lot of people are surprised when I say, I'm probably the biggest introvert that you know. And they're like, no, you're not. And so what I do is I say, well, why do you think that? Right? And then they'll say, well, you have such a big personality, or, I see you out at a social event, blah, blah, blah. And I say, okay, but what about that takes away my introvertedness? And they're like, well, introverts don't do that. And I'm like, that's the mistake. What is introversion? Introversion is just simply how you prefer to recharge your battery. That's it, right? Introverts prefer to recharge their battery alone or with one person or in a small group or intimate setting. It doesn't necessarily mean alone. You can be an introvert and recharge your battery with one other person or in a setting that has less, sound, whatever it may be, right? That doesn't mean that I'm socially anxious. It doesn't mean that I'm shy. It doesn't mean like it doesn't mean that at all. I make the distinction. People are like, I just don't like I feel anxious around people. And I said, that's anxiety. That is a thing that you get diagnosed with. Introversion is not a diagnosable disorder.
Right.
Introversion is a preference. So I always say to people, just because I'm able to have a conversation, just because I'm able to be out in public, doesn't make me an extrovert. Extroverts can be shy too. Extroversion doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to just walk up to you and start a conversation. So that's probably the biggest thing.
No,
like, how are you an introvert?
Yeah. I think people definitely get that confused because they're like, I don't like to be around social, like you just said, I don't like to be in social situations because it makes you anxious. And you're like, that's I guess I don't think anybody's really, that's not normal.
Right. Now, is it more likely that somebody that's an introvert is going to be socially anxious? Of course. Yes. Right. Not saying that there's no correlation there. However, it doesn't automatically mean that.
Yeah.
Just like ADHD is a spectrum, introversion is a spectrum as well. I can easily be around people and be the life of the party. The problem comes when my social battery dies. And it dies pretty fast. So I'll be the life of the party, just not for long.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go. And then I'm going to have to recharge my battery.
Right.
And then once it's recharged, I'm going to be the life of the party again.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. And so you said going out to dinner by yourself is something that introverts should really
Yeah,
be embracing.
you should. I mean, it's like it's such a when you're able to learn how to live with yourself, just yourself. Like I was kind of alluding to this before about like this internal validation, right? When you're able to just be with yourself and be happy, then you're going to find so much more happiness in your life. You're gonna start to appreciate the little things. I travel by myself all the time. I go to dinner by myself all the time, and I'm able to enjoy myself. I'm able to have a good time without relying on, again, an external thing to make me happy. And if an introvert can find that, go do it. Go, if you want to have dinner at that Italian restaurant, but you have nobody to go with, go.
Hmm.
Just do it. Like just legit go do it. Who cares what anybody else says? Just
It's
go
so
and
true.
eat your chicken fettuccine because you want it. You want
Yeah.
that chicken fettuccine. So
It'll
go
make
get
you
your dang
happy. Yeah.
chicken and fettuccine. Go get it.
Oh my gosh, yes, it's so true. I'm like, I definitely have gone out to dinner by myself like once or twice, but not like I feel like not often. And now that I have kids, I'm like, oh, you guys, even you guys are just like the buffer. I'm gonna get the meal I
Right.
wanted, and you guys can just sit with me and eat your chicken
Yeah.
fingers, you know?
Yeah. And people will sometimes say to me, well, what do I do when I'm there? Like, what do I do when I'm like waiting for my food? I'm like, you could do anything you want. I'm like, bring a book.
Yeah.
Bring a book, scroll through TikTok. Like you could literally do anything you want. I bring my AirPods with me. So like I'm usually just like either listening to music or I'm like scrolling through something, just living in my own little world. I always say to people, as an introvert, I love being around people. I just prefer not to be with people.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
I can be
I
around
get
people, just
that.
don't want to
Yeah.
be with them.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. So with all of the wonderful things that you've done, you've made some really great like guidebooks and tools
Yeah.
for people. So the first one, Navigating Daily Life with ADHD, it's packed with
Hmm.
practical advice. What kind
Yeah.
of inspired you to create that resource?
I have been so fortunate that I've met so many amazing people that offer tips and advice, and I wanted to put the things that I've learned from them. I wanted to put that in there and spread it to as many people as I can and be like, "Hey, these are the things that I've learned. Hopefully it can help you too." And like I'm a writer, so, like this whole thing started but with me writing a blog. I
Hmm.
love to write. I write every day. I have a new blog on my website every other day. I love writing. And so I was like, okay, well, I can write something that can really, really help people. And so I created that guidebook for ADHD. And literally just this week, I launched my new guidebook for people, for introverts called Embrace Your Introversion. And so I just really love doing that kind of stuff because, you can read it at your own leisure. And it's built for people with ADHD. So it's not like,
Yeah.
like it's ADHD friendly,
Yeah.
all of that in mind. So yeah, that's probably what it's told me. I just wanted to help.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what's the one thing that you, I guess, a takeaway that you would hope that everyone kind of carries with them from any of your guidebooks, I guess.
Yeah, that you're not alone.
Hmm.
There's so many people with ADHD that struggle with it, and it's really easy, even though it's diagnosed, like a lot of people are diagnosed with it, and more so than ever. It's
Hmm.
still easy to think that you're alone on
Yeah.
this. So if I can just help a person understand that they're not alone on this journey, then I've done my job. That's my goal because you're not alone on this journey. There's so many people from around the world. ADHD doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter where you live. It doesn't matter what country you're from. It doesn't matter what skin color you are. It doesn't matter what you believe in. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't discriminate. So what that means is that there's people all over the world. I'm not sure about on like Mars and the moon yet. I got to check.
We
I
don't
haven't checked.
know.
I haven't
Maybe
checked there yet.
coming from the
Yeah.
ocean,
I
even though
know.
it
I'm gonna hop on one of those drones that
yeah,
are taking over New Jersey and
I
see and
know,
find out
seriously.
some stuff.
They're in Bucks County too.
Yeah, oh yeah. But like you're not alone. There's so many people around the world that have similar stories and similar struggles. And so if that in and of itself can help you push yourself forward in your ADHD journey or OCD journey or anxiety journey or depression journey, then that's a good thing. It's a really good thing.
Yeah. And you've also had so many amazing recognitions. And the one that really stuck out to me was that you were invited to speak with White House officials about mental health and
Yeah.
content creation. How
Yeah.
was that? Like, that
Oh
seems
my
like such a
gosh.
dream.
It was so absurd. Like like for me, because like it was me and like maybe 50 other content creators from around the country. Like a
So
lot of
cool.
content creators that I look up to, and I'm like, oh my God, I know you.
Yeah.
And so many content creators. And what was great about it is that it wasn't a political thing.
Mhm.
A lot of people saw me. I said, yeah, I'm going to the White House to talk with the Biden administration about, content creation and all that. And they're like, oh, don't let the Democrats do this and blah, blah, blah. It wasn't about that. It wasn't about politics. It was
Mhm.
legitimately about content creators and the roles and responsibilities that we have now, because whether people are like it or not, there is a distrust in the main media that's out there now.
Mhm.
And a lot of people get their news and their resources from content creators.
They
So
do.
what responsibility do we have as content creators to talk with the people and the information that we put out there? And on top of that, what can the government do? Because like I'm lucky, I have a 9 to 5,
Right.
right? So like I make content like for fun, but I
Mhm.
have a 9 to 5. There's so many content creators. This is what they do for a living.
Mhm.
And guess what? Content creation doesn't have healthcare.
Yeah.
It doesn't have like, tax incentives, like little things like that. So we were able to have those conversations with White House officials from both parties. It was content creators, White House officials, people from major entertainment organizations and social media platforms. It was a big conversation, and it was such a crazy thing. And President Biden surprised us. He wasn't supposed to be there.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I'll tell you a really quick story about how I ruined the day.
Oh,
I
no.
ruined the day. President Biden, he came out and he gave this like speech on his card, and then all of a sudden he's like, "I'll take questions from you guys, like the content creators." I'm like, and I just raised my hand. I
You're
didn't have
like,
a
I don't
question.
know, but I'll think of
I didn't
one.
know. Right. And so he points at me and I was like, now luckily the White House press corps was behind me. So they started yelling out things like inflation,
Yeah.
blah, 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 Trump, and like all this stuff. They're just yelling stuff out. And so President Biden kicks them out. And so it kicks them out, and it's just President Biden and us, content creators. And so I don't know if you've ever had the president of the United States walk towards you, looking at you, waiting for you to say something. I can tell you from experience, quite a weird moment to feel.
I'm feeling it over here, and
Yeah,
I was not involved in it. That's gotta
it
be,
was
yeah.
so weird. I'm like, he's talking at me right
Mhm.
now. He acknowledges my existence. And so I asked him a question. I said, I just came up with something like, out of all the social media platforms, which one's your favorite? I'm
Yeah.
like, that's a dumb question. Why did I ask that? And he didn't really answer it. But what happened is he ended up, because of me, going on this like 30-minute
Oh my gosh.
answer about his grandchildren and social media. He was only supposed to be in the room for 5 minutes. He ended up, because of me, staying for 30 extra minutes. His aides are like, President, we gotta go, President. And so I threw off the entire President's Day. And little did I know, my dumb question would be the one question that the president took, not only from us, the content creators, but from the press in
Oh
general
my
that
gosh.
day. My
I
dumb
love that.
question.
It's not dumb. He obviously cared enough to talk about his granddaughter to you,
He did, but I'm like, I thought about it later. I'm like, all those White House aides were probably like, well, we can't do this now because you can't meet up with this person and do that. I might have started a war. I have no idea. It
You're
could have
like,
been my fault.
what happened on the day that you were there? Is
Right,
that the day the
exactly.
drones started
I
coming?
know
Or
it might have been. Who knows at this point,
oh my gosh. No, but I think that's like as simple. I mean, I don't think Biden is utilizing social media. He has people for that probably.
Yes, that is very true.
So I think it was
Very
simple
true.
enough. And
Yes.
yeah, he obviously cared enough to talk. So that's
Yes,
wonderful.
I can tell you he did not say TikTok
Yeah.
because he
Yeah.
does not like TikTok. I
I
do know that
know.
for a fact.
Gosh. Yeah. What are your thoughts about
Yeah.
that with like, do you think it's gonna ban or
Probably the options are very limited at the
yeah.
moment, but I said this on my live stream the other day, because a lot of people ask me, what are you going to do when TikTok
Yeah.
is banned? The same thing I do now, because I'm not a TikToker, I'm an
Hmm.
Instagrammer and a Facebooker, so it's not going to really affect me that
Hmm.
much. However, it is going to affect a lot of my content creator friends,
Yeah.
people that make a living off of TikTok, because it like behind Amazon, TikTok is one of the biggest e-com platforms.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even making that up.
I
That is a
mean,
legit stat. And so, like, if when TikTok goes away, that is a major part of the United
huge.
States economy,
Yeah.
you know? So
They
I
have
feel
to
bad for my
yeah.
friends.
I know. I have like 1,500 followers on TikTok, but I just got invited to the TikTok shop like
Yeah.
in the last couple weeks. And
Yeah.
I made like $7 on, whatever. And again, I'm very, very small, but my eyes were like very open to be like, wow,
Mhm.
these
Mhm.
people who have all these, this is what they do. Like you can make
Man,
money.
the amount of
Like,
money some of my colleagues make, I'm like, how in the heck
I
are
know.
you making that? I'm talking like hundreds of thousands of dollars that's not even counting their other platforms.
Right. Oh my
Like,
gosh.
and
It's
brand
amazing.
deals and all that. Like, I'm like,
Yeah.
how are y'all like, oh my goodness, what, like, goodness gracious, can I borrow a
Yeah.
20? Can I have a
I
20,
know, right?
please?
I'm like, can you just pay my student loans, please?
Yes, exactly. I went to Rider University, so I went to a private
Okay.
school, so I'm gonna
Yeah.
be paying that for the rest of my
Oh
life.
my gosh, I know. I tell all my students, I'm like, yeah, I'm still paying my college loans. And they're
Yeah,
like, what? How long have you been out of
yeah,
college? I'm like, okay, well, look
yep,
into it before you do
yes.
anything.
That's the United States of
I
America.
know.
Welcome, everybody.
Welcome, welcome. Oh my gosh. So we really talked about so much. Besides, I know you don't want anyone to feel alone. That's such a huge message of you. But if there's another message that you hope to leave behind through your work in advocacy, what do you think that it would be?
That it's okay. It's okay. You know, it's really easy for us to live in a very dark place. I was there. It's really easy to live there, but it's even better when you find your light, or at least you're hopeful that it's there. Keep the
Yeah.
hope, because it's gonna be okay. You have made it through the worst of your days, and you're still here. That should be enough. It's gonna be okay. It's like, if things seem bleak now, understandable. Your thoughts are valid. Your struggles are valid. But keep the hope. It's gonna be okay.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I have chills. That's the way to end it. Oh my gosh, that was great. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of another episode of the Wine Mom. What an incredible conversation. Kai, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah.
Thank you for reminding us that it's okay to embrace our struggles. They can be the very things that really make us stronger in the end. To everyone listening, I hope this episode inspired you to find power in your unique journey, just as Kai has. If you loved what you heard today, be sure to check out Kai's content on The Vibe with Kai, grab a copy of his guidebook, Navigating Daily Life with ADHD, or download one of his free resources to take the next step on your journey. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review, and sharing it. You can follow me on Instagram at @TheRunningWineMom_. And Kai, just remind the listeners one more time where they can find you.
Yeah, absolutely. Really easy. The Vibe with Kai, KY, thevibewithkai.com. And I'm also at The Vibe with Kai on every major social media platform. I'm very
Perfect.
easy to find. Just
I
type in
will.
introvert black guy. If you type that in, you'll find me. I'll be there. I'll be there.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you taking your
Thank you
time.
so much for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Remember, you are strong, you are capable, and you are all amazing. Until next time, keep running, keep sipping, and keep embracing the joy of parenthood. Cheers, and I will be back next Tuesday.